Minister, the only aspect of food production that has severely been curtailed during the level 5 restrictions is that of the operation of marts. And I can tell you, Minister, I have never seen an issue to cause so much antagonism, anxiety and frustration among the farming community and the marts themselves. The current system isn't working. If you talk, and I'm sure you've heard the stories from several marts around the state, it needs to be addressed. I'm asking you tonight, will you intervene and urge easing of the restrictions to allow some physical activity to take place at our marts?
Thank you, Deputy. As you know, on the 19th of October, the Taoiseach announced that the whole country would move to level 5 of the framework for living with COVID-19 for a period of 6 weeks, starting on midnight Wednesday the 21st. This decision was made in foot of strong evidence presented to the Government of a potentially grave situation arising in the weeks ahead. For marts, this meant a return to similar conditions under which they operated in the first phase of the pandemic. The Taoiseach has called on us all to work together to suppress the virus and to reopen as much of our society and economy as possible when it is safe to do so. The core responsibility of this Government is to protect lives and protect public health, while also protecting livelihoods and supporting the wider economy and society. Protecting the agri-food sector and people in rural communities is at the centre of my department's direction on the 20th of October that buyers could not physically congregate in sales rings and that all marts conduct sales by brokering transactions or using online platforms only. Marts have been using online platforms since April. Although the marts are operating online, sales online, buyers may view livestock for sale at the mart premises, and individual appointment times are allocated to individual buyers to view or collect livestock. From a position where few marts had online systems in place in April, there has been a rapid take-up of the new systems in marts over recent months. Currently, the vast majority of marts have online systems in place and are operating through online platforms. Some remaining marts are in the process of installing such platforms. Thousands of cattle, Deputy, and sheep have been bought and sold successfully online over the last period of time. But as with any new technology, there have been some glitches that have been dealt with have been operating smoothly over the last period of time. This is undoubtedly, though, a challenging time, Deputy, and my department is closely monitoring the situation. And we are seeing some positive aspects of online sales at marts, despite some reports that marts and potential buyers have not been able to access the online platforms due to connectivity issues on Saturday week last in particular.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy, 1 minute.
Minister, I have to say it's not good enough. You're the Minister for Agriculture. You need to stand up for our farming communities. Let's take things as a given. Yes, marts are doing everything in their power to ensure that the online facilities are up to standard. They're the people who are telling us that it's not working effectively. The people who are calling me, they have to be calling you as well. Farmers from right across the country who are telling me of stories of how their animals had to be taken home and how they have taken a financial hit as a result of this. This isn't about whether or not restrictions need to be put in place. We accept, of course, the restrictions need to be put in place. This is about what constitutes essential activity. And the only aspect of food production that isn't constituted as an essential activity is the one area within the market chain that farmers have any semblance of control. They are begging you to intervene and to stand up for them and to call for marts to be able to operate on a restrictive basis that will allow some buyers who cannot currently access the market to be able to do so.
Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. I've been monitoring the situation very, very closely and talking to farmers and mart operators up and down the country. As I outlined, there was a difficulty with one online platform provider Saturday week last, which led to 4 marts out of 30 not being able to complete their sale. Overall, though, I have to say that in terms of the sales operating online, there has been a lot of success in that regard. Very importantly, from my point of view, is the fact that prices have been holding up and indeed improved across many livestock categories as well. And to me, that's the #1 priority in relation to for farmers and certainly for those selling it has worked reasonably well and is continuing to improve. For those buying it, has certainly posed more difficulties. Farmers and purchasers do like to see physically what the animals, as opposed to just online or before the sale. But we are in level 5, and unfortunately we're not in a position to operate at level 3 restrictions in level 5. But bottom line, I am monitoring it very closely. Prices are holding up, and for farmers that is the most important thing. Deputy.
1 minute.
So, Minister, I have to say there's a touch of naivety there. So take my own county, for example, County Monaghan. 48% of households don't have access to adequate broadband. They are the government's own figures. I would imagine, and I think everyone would accept, if you were to take the farming community, that figure is going to be much higher. Where do you think they're buying, even when they're going online? They're meeting in car parks, they're meeting in cars. In many instances, there's a lot of people congregated in a small space with one young lad operating the phone, because in some cases you're talking about elderly farmers. That isn't doing anything for physical distancing or protecting us from COVID. They would be much better, those farmers who have to do that, if they were standing in a physically distanced scenario around Mart Ring in a very restrictive period. These are the stories. These aren't things that I'm just making up. These are the calls I took today and all over the last weekend, and people, buyers and sellers, who've pleaded with me to make a case in as strong as possible terms to you to stand up for them. And I'm making that case once again as sincerely as I can. Please intervene on this issue, Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy, and I've had many discussions with many farmers who obviously would prefer to be operating level 3 restrictions, and I've no doubt that your message would be the same as mine, that there's a personal responsibility in everyone to act responsibly for their own health and for their neighbours' and their friends' health as well, by following social distancing and following the public health guidelines in all situations, including outside of marts. But the bottom and the personal responsibility is on everyone in that regard. The bottom line, Deputy, is I've been monitoring this very closely on a daily basis, and indeed on particular days, important days, on an hourly basis. And bottom line is, in relation to prices, they have held up strongly and indeed have increased in many instances. That things have operated pretty smoothly since that one Saturday where the livestock platform went down. And volumes are now increasing as farmers become more adapted to it. And I'll bet not with some hardship and inconvenience, but we are in level 5. And importantly, as I say, Deputy, the prices are holding up, which is the #1 priority for farmers.